This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Facing your fears is important for your mental health. Fear inoculation is an essential process used by therapists to help people overcome anxiety by willfully exposing them to their fears over time until they eventually conquer them. Willfully is the key word, using your will to effectively overcome the unthinkable. Conquering your fears is about finding comfort in chaos and the unknown, as well as developing the ability to perform in high-intensity environments. Fear will always be there, but it's what we choose to do that makes all the difference. Managing fear will lead you to live tenaciously, become more competent, and most importantly, it will set you free. What are you afraid of? What is holding you back from living the life you want? Valeria Teles interviews Matthew Gagne, the founder of Flock Goods, Guinness World Record holder, former professional skydiver, and speaker. Matthew Gagne, in his former career as a professional skydiver, he trained Navy SEALs and served as flight instructor for Al Gore, Will Smith, Jaden Smith, Trey Smith, Kirby Chambliss, and Tyrese. When a near-fatal car accident broke his neck in 10 places, he threw himself into rehabilitation. Flock Goods was born during this journey through pain. Ever since, he has dedicated himself to helping others overcome adversity and lead active lifestyles. He currently lives with his beloved Dutch Shepherd dog on a Maine riverbank in a tiny house RV that he built himself. Meet Matthew at flockgoods.com. Here is the interview with Matthew Gagne.
In your own words, who is Matthew Gagne?
How much time do we have? No.
Yeah, right.
I would consider myself simply an active lifestyle enthusiast.
So I guess my second official question to you is about becoming a skydiver. What inspired you to become a skydiver?
That was an interesting progression since I never had any intention growing up to become a skydiver. Funny enough, but I landed in the industry nonetheless. I actually began in indoor skydiving.
Yeah.
My older brother, who's 10 years my elder, he had bought me a gift certificate when I was 19, and I flew in the wind tunnel for the first time, which was indoor skydiving. Fell in love with it. Began working at that facility several months later, eventually built up the courage to try the real thing.
Talk to me for a moment about that experience up to the accident and then the insights you gained in the healing journey. I know there's too many questions now within a question, but the experience with a skydiver, professional, elite skydiver, and then the car accident, and then the healing journey, if you can connect them.
Oh, they're very intrinsically connected. So
right,
I'll do my best, but I think the path to become a skydiver is what really shaped and molded and altered the way I approached and thought about life in general as a whole. Really, the thirst to adventure. I was inspired originally by skydivers before becoming one myself. I met individuals who had big, crazy dreams and goals, ambitions, and they didn't come without risk And they took massive steps physically, mentally, financially to pursue those goals. And they had passports full of stamps to prove it. They weren't all talk. They were really about it. And that's what you become the five people you're closest to or surrounded by, right? As they say. So over time, I began to grow my own interest in the sport. I became a licensed skydiver after a year and a half of instructing in the wind tunnel. It's expensive and terrifying. So those two things, I kind of dipped my toes in the water, so to speak. Did a handful of jumps 2009. Didn't jump again until 2011. Finally got licensed fully to jump by myself in 2012. And this is all while working as a full-time wind tunnel instructor, indoor skydiving. Then once I got licensed to skydive, I was 150% all in. At that point, I was finally ready to fully commit. That was kind of my golden ticket to travel the US and then the world. Ultimately, I landed in Dubai. I worked for In-Flight Dubai as a wind tunnel instructor, Skydive Dubai as a load organizer. So essentially, I did group coaching in the sky and really progressed to a leadership role, one that had high risk but high reward. But I was also Peter Pan. I was living a dream, essentially not having to work because, everyone knows the saying, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. But then in 2014, 4 days before I was actually slated to join a fully sponsored skydiving team, very unheard of in the sport. There's not a lot of cases where that's the case, because there's just quite frankly, there's not a lot of eyeballs on the sport to draw revenue. It's not a spectator-friendly sport, so it's very difficult to get sponsorships. But I ended up never making it on that team, never making it to training camp, because 4 days before I was slated to leave Dubai, and I was living and working there for a year and a half. So 4 days before I was supposed to leave, I was a passenger in a car accident. And I was coming back from Abu Dhabi. We were heading back to Dubai. I had went on a shooting range with Navy SEALs and DOD guys, and they used to train and fly in our wind tunnels. So we were friendly, and they were, invited me on a last hurrah. And it was coming back from that where I was a passenger in this car accident and fully conscious the entire time. I was very aware. I remembered everything vividly, even though sometimes I don't want to. I woke up. The accident happened at 8:30 at night. I was transferred to one hospital, waited for an hour for the ambulance to get there, 30-minute ride to the hospital, CAT scan. They decide they can't treat me there. So another 30-minute ride to a different hospital. At that point, around 2:30 a.m., and remind you, it happened 8:30 p.m. at night. I didn't get any pain meds. And still, that was a kind of a whole part of, we'll set that aside. So yeah, we go to the second hospital. I'm in the hospital. I had an emergency surgery the next morning. But the very next day after that emergency surgery, the surgeon came in to my room and said, we're going to start weaning you off of all of your pain meds. So in Dubai, in the Middle East, they have a very different mentality and execution, or it's probably not the best word, but as far as prescriptions of narcotics, even the day after an emergency surgery, they literally bolted my head back on. I had a full internal sublux, which means I was internally decapitated. I have stretch marks on my spinal cord to this day. I fractured from C1 all the way down to T4, which is like the middle of your shoulder blades. So basically where your spine connects to your brain to the middle of my shoulder blades, broken in 10 places. And they installed a halo. I wake up from surgery and I see the bars. I'm basically now in at that point, a portable jail cell that's bolted to your skull. And I spent a little over a month in the hospital there, and I was released. But then I get out of the hospital and I'm homeless in the Middle East. Because mind you, I was 4 days away from leaving Dubai. So I'd canceled my visa. I sold my Jeep. I sold my apartment. And my work was actually canceling my insurance. So the folder was on the table, on their desk. And they said, hold that folder. And thankfully, I was taken care of. And yeah, so fast forward going through recovery, it took me about 1.5 years to get back to my sport. And I used skydiving as my philosophical carrot, if you will, that I dangled in front of myself as motivation to do all of the things that I had the ability to even influence slightly. I was putting in that work.
What is it about skydiving that inspires you? Yeah, what is it about it exactly?
I didn't actually explain that as much as I wanted to, because like that process of becoming a skydiver, facing those fears, like it was the most terrifying thing that I'd ever done in my life. And that fear is very justified. You're essentially, as morbid as it sounds, it's essentially a controlled suicide abort mission. I mean, if you're facing your fear and you're also trusting your ability to execute. And that's something that has had a trickle effect in the rest of my life and everything that I do, because facing that fear, conquering that fear, and then pursuing and attaining such a high level, it really taught me about myself and my abilities, and knowing that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the strongest, the fastest. You don't have to be the best at anything. Whatever it is that you're looking to do, that you're seeking, you can do it if you put your mind to it and you bear down and you have stubborn determination, and you have a strong enough why. Because motivation is, to me, it's temporary. Like you can get rah-rahed up, but you need what's your drive? What drives you? Like, and that's your why. For me, that was getting back to skydiving, but now it's changed several times over as, the death and rebirth of life cycles,
Do you believe that one day we can become fearless?
I do not. And I can tell you, I have a lot of friends people who would look at from the outside that would say they do crazy things, jumping not only from planes, but cliffs and many, many different action sports where the risk is very high for injury and death.
Yeah.
They are not fearless. Humans, if you're fearless, then you're probably psychotic. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor, but it's learning to manage and mitigate that fear and face it. There's no shortcut. There's absolutely no one that could do it for you. Right. When you're there alone, you can't lie to yourself, and you have to face whatever it is that's terrifying you. It could be jumping out of a plane. It could be having a difficult conversation with someone, or expressing how you feel, even though you think it may not be received well. Like there's so many situations where just facing that fear is going to be the best course of action. And not only that, it's like exercising your muscles in the gym. You do that and you face your fears, you learn to trust yourself, you become better and better at being able to have that confidence and that strength within yourself to be able to do the difficult things. And the fear never goes away, but you become stronger, and your abilities will grow.
And what do you think is the purpose of the human experience, Matthew?
Ooh, that's a beautiful question. And I think there's so many right answers. I think I could only speak for myself and my truth. And I think the human experience is exactly that, is seeking experiences, as many as possible, because life is so short and so finite.
True.
I know so many people that say, I wish, I hope, I one day. And all these phrases are all excuses, and they're all false. Like no one's like, life isn't fair. They're definitely, people get hands of cards that are not equivalent to others, and not everybody starts in the same place, but we all have the ability to control what we do in our environment and our human experience and how we navigate it. That's what we have the ability to choose, is how we navigate our human. So the human experience for me is like PMA, positive mental attitude. And it's like happy. Why? Just because why not? What's the ladder? Like, to be upset? Like, why would you choose that one? That's silly. Right. So to me, I think it's wise to, and I mentioned too earlier that like I was in Peter Pan land, and I think that taught me something too, to stay childlike in my enthusiasm, but with the discipline of being a mature adult. And for me, that it works for me. And I hope anything that you and I just discussed today, if someone hears something that resonates with them and it helps them in their daily life, that's a beautiful thing. And that's a big part of why I do this. And it's, I think, a matter of just kind of unlocking it within yourself, and it just will solidify further and further the more you do it.
So it's a practice. And speaking of practices or beliefs, do you have any spiritual practices or spiritual beliefs?
I tend to gravitate towards, that's a difficult question. I wouldn't say I don't attend any religious organizations.
Yeah.
However, I believe religion is a beautiful thing, and I believe it's a very powerful thing. And I think there's so many beautiful lessons to be learned. And I think in all religions, I've traveled the world. I've lived in a Muslim country. I grew up Christian, but I've also I have friends from almost all ethnicities and religions. And at the end of the day, what I've learned is people are people. Morality is morality. Character is, the definition of character, doing the right thing when no one's looking, whether that's someone else or God. Or I try to be the best person I can be just for myself, selfishly, so I can give that version to others. Because I've noticed when I'm able to carry myself, and this is something that I think you can most definitely learn through religion. There's no one. I don't think there's one way to learn humility and to learn your own power, and that how you influence and affect people in their daily lives. And you can really make someone's day just by the smallest gesture.
So true.
The smallest gesture can, so why not do it? Like, I think if we all just, took little steps, because at the end of the day, no matter what religion or what race, ethnicity, orientation, like at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And I truly in my heart believe if we sat down and had a conversation, we all have more in common than not.
So true.
And everywhere I've been fortunate to travel and experience, and even here in the U.S., we're a melting pot. Like, at the end of the day, people are people, and I think treating people well and with dignity is the most important thing. At the end of the day, your experience, like, to bring it back to the human experience, like, you don't do that on your own. Like, to go and be whatever you want to be, but to do it alone, I didn't name my company Flock because I want to do things alone. It means community, and it means movements. Like, that's what I believe in. It's like literally my life personified in the brand, and just my core beliefs. And I don't think I have all the answers or do it right. I do what works for me. And I always say, like, things like flock different and together we're strong as flock, because my philosophy is the human experience is all about the pursuit of self-mastery. But you never become a master. No one's, it's that pursuit. And I think the pursuit is all about learning from everyone you meet. If you can learn something from everyone you meet, even if it's something about yourself. You can always learn from reflection. And I think that's important in the human experience, to that reflection, to be able to continue giving the best version of yourself, and, just to be unapologetically you.
What is to be free?
I think to be free is to have the ability to manage your time, and to be able to pursue the interests that you enjoy. I mean, I think that, like, I'm very patriotic, and if you think about what in our Declaration of Independence, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, if you unpack that, like, what does that really mean? It means, like, everything we've been talking about, and it's pursuing that. And, like, as long as you're doing no harm to others, then I feel that that's being free. Is just that here we have this unique landscape here in the United States, and I think it's so important for for individuals to really understand their rights and understand our past, so we have strength in the future. And so we understand that our rights they're not to be taken lightly. And our past generations fought very hard for our rights. And I think nowadays a lot of us take them for granted. And we got to talk about these things so people are aware.
Freedom is not free, right, Matt?
No, nothing in life is free. It costs time, money, and usually both.
True. So true. Let me ask you a fun question. What do you love most about being in a human body?
That's so difficult. That's a very interesting question. But I would say love. Love. I mean, if you can pick one feeling, it would have to be love. I mean, so in the human body, I think just experiencing love. And I think it's not even just physical, like, it's not just physical. Like, love is a feeling that, like, your entire body, it's euphoric. When you're, like, in love with someone, like that new love feeling, that, obvious scientists would say, yes, you're getting serotonin and oxytocin but all these happy chemicals in your brain. But that to me, if I had to pick one thing to enjoy with the human body, it's to experience love.
Can you imagine having that feeling for ourselves, that self-love? That's something that I usually talk about, and we here on the podcast and I write about. What does self-love look like?
I think self-love is a great way to express everything, I think it's another way to say pursuing self-mastery. Because when you love yourself, you should take care of yourself and you should put yourself first. Because even when you're on a plane and there's an emergency situation, they say, put your mask on first. Why? Because you can't take care of anyone else, even your own children, if you don't take care of yourself first. So I think it's so important to, take care of yourself first.
So talk to me about your company, Flock Goods, the inspiration to create this company.
Well, the idea for Flock Goods, it really organically came to fruition. In life, I tend to try to navigate as organically as possible. I do a lot of things, and what feels right, I go with. And I had actually been inspired by a former student, and she was actually a sheikha in the royal family, the Maktoum family in Dubai, and her name was Sheikha Latifa. And she actually, when I was wearing a halo, I had gotten out of the hospital, wearing the halo. I still had, another 2 months of walking around with this thing. Thankfully, I could walk, though, so I had gratitude. But she had suggested that I try an alkaline-based diet in order to promote healing from within, because healing is from the inside out. And I took those words and very literally, and I started making kale smoothies every day and just everything that I could fit into the blender that was, good for you. And I was blending it up and really forcing it down because it didn't taste really good, but I drank it nonetheless because I wanted to heal. So to take that a step further, she actually she took it upon herself to go to a nutritional supplement store and basically purchase an entire wall of supplements and had them delivered to me in 3, those big giant black trash bags. She had 3 of those chock full that my friends delivered to me. And that's what really started the infatuation with supplementation and thinking about food as nutraceuticals, which are simply a fancy word for a food-based supplement that has medicinal value.
Right.
So I tried basically everything on the market at that time in 2014. And fast forward to 2016, I was hearing all these things, even before 2016, about CBD. And in the Middle East, I never even received morphine. If your listeners know anything about pharmaceutical narcotics, I'll tell you the dose I was on. I was on, the day after emergency surgery, 50 milligrams of tramadol every 7 hours, which people, I think, get more than that and more than that for a toothache here in the U.S. So It's a little bit it's a drastically different landscape there when it comes to that stuff. And so I was forced really to seek holistic alternatives. I'd already started with the food, but as things developed, it just kept layering on. So I was very interested in trying CBD. And when I did, it was an absolute game changer for my arthritic pain, because I have severe nerve pain down both of my arms from where my spinal cord was almost severed. And so both my hands, and all the way from, I can just reach my arm out to the side and I can feel the nerves being stretched because they were, they're not like they were before. So I utilized CBD heavily. I started, and so it started me, I moved from Dubai. I had tried all of these supplements, really started to beginning thinking about nutraceuticals seriously, moved to San Diego. I got back into skydiving, but knew my time was limited because physically, I no longer could be a career skydiver. I was thankful I was able to get back to my sport, but I knew I was putting more damage. In fact, I knew I was putting more damage physically on my body, but I needed to put that damage physically and perform my craft to heal mentally. And it really was like me taking my life back in a massive way. And so I sacrificed my spine as much as I physically could. I literally got to the point where I could barely move and turn my head anymore after getting back the range of motion back. So I started taking CBD and it was amazing. It was an absolute game changer, but then I couldn't find the right stuff again because I couldn't, or I'd get stuff and it wasn't good. And so I started sourcing, and then I started seeing this industry from the back end, this emerging industry, and seeing how this kind of fractioned into several pieces. You have people that are in it just for a cash grab, stuff you see on in Walmart and Amazon that contains no CBD at all. And they're selling these things under the guise of medicinal benefit, which to me is terrible because it has no true anyways, we'll set that aside. So I just knew I could do better and at the same time promote and help other small business owners. So I began sourcing. I partnered with a manufacturer because I started making it in my kitchen. The first product was actually the turmeric capsules. I was doing turmeric capsules with CBD hemp extract and just taking those and going to work and strapping people to me and going to do tandems all day. No THC, because obviously that's psychoactive. I was gonna jump out of airplanes with that, but it was a game changer. So I decided to start my own company. And then it was October 18th, 2018, first official day in business. And I haven't looked back since. I mean, I was a skydiver, so that was my one thing. I was a one-trick pony. I was a very skilled wind tunnel flyer, body flight pilot, skydiver, but I didn't know how to type. I wasn't a social media guru. I wasn't an e-commerce expert. I didn't know SEO. I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know any of these things. But I did it anyway. It took me forever, but I did it. And what I didn't know, I sought that knowledge from others. Even I didn't have the money to pay people, so I had to learn what I could and ask people who knew more and then go back, and just it's very time consuming. But when you want something bad enough, I learned that, and I've learned that time and time again. When you want it bad enough and you're stubbornly determined to go after it and you actually take the steps, like actions plus time equals results. Like you can't just wish, you can't just hope, you can't just pray. You actually have to take definitive actions, and you have to take massive Jocko Willens. I'm so sorry, Jocko. He says take extreme ownership, and that's so important. If you really think about what that means, it means like stop making excuses. And even if they're valid reasons, so what? Fault is in the past, responsibility is in the future. So it's up to you. Nobody's going to do it for you. So if you really want it, put the work in and you'll get there.
So I have a question about CBD. I have heard a lot about it. I don't think I ever interviewed anyone on the topic. So what does it stand for, this acronym, the C, the B, and the D?
It stands for, it's shortened for the full word is cannabidiol. Cannabidiol.
So that's just an abbreviation of the word.
It's just an abbreviation, correct.
And the side effects, are there any side effects, Matt?
Personally, I haven't experienced any side effects, but there are known side effects. I always steer people to a website called projectcbd.org because they don't sell anything.
Yeah.
And that's usually the best indicator for bias. So, yeah, there's very few. There's many case studies. There's very few side effects, but you always want to consult a physician because you don't want to make sure that interactions with medications, specifically the one to be probably most aware of is a slowered heart rate. Right. So if you're on blood pressure medication, maybe definitely ask a physician about adding CBD to your regimen. But I'm of the belief that CBD will be essentially almost like a fish oil. It'll be something that people take regularly, and there's known benefits for consistent use.
Right.
Because it's the type of thing that if you think about the science behind it, our bodies actually have cannabinoid receptors. So when we ingest cannabinoids, they interact with our own receptors in our body. Right. And it's very unique. And that's why this is so exciting, because this is an emerging industry. But this is really, the science is becoming so much more well documented. But this plant has been around for so long. I mean, there's cases, there's known records of Chinese medicine dating back 5,000 years ago. Most people don't realize hemp was grown in the United States. Actually, prohibition for hemp and accidentally cannabis because of that was actually longer. So it was legal in the United States longer than prohibition has been in place.
Would you say that CBD is a natural painkiller? Would you call it that or not?
I would not.
Okay.
I would not label it that, just because I'm not a physician and I'm not
Yes.
I'm not qualified to say that, honestly. Right. All of the evidence that I have is anecdotal, but I have a lot of customers, and industry is growing at a massive rate for a reason. It's a plant that has significant medicinal value, but the thing to be aware is that not all CBD is created equal. That CBD, if what it says on the bottle, that's what should be in the bottle. But in this emerging industry, that's not always the case. Or the labeling is very, very cleverly worded to be deceiving. And it's misleading. And that's unfortunate too, because that really it's really bad for the entire industry when there's companies that do that, because it really it destroys trust. And trust, I've heard an analogy one time, I forget where it came from, so sorry to the originator, but trust is like a plate. You can drop a plate on your floor and break it in half. Now, you can glue it back together, and you can use it, but it's always going to have that crack. So there's always going to be a degree of distrust. And that's just unfortunate, because that will probably sway people to not want to try it. And in fact, it could help them significantly.
Who needs CBD? Who would you say?
I think anyone over 18, because our bodies all need different things. But you should be 18 years old, unless there's a specific medical reason. Then that's kind of a different conversation. Right. But I would encourage everyone to try CBD, see what it does for them. Some people may say, "Hey, I didn't really notice anything," and everybody's body is different, right?
True.
Everyone's brain is different. Everyone's blood type. So there's so many variables, and controlling expectations as well. Everyone talks about CBD and its influence on reducing inflammation, right? But if you eat a bucket of fried chicken, you're not going to offset all that inflammation. So controlling your expectations and understanding that CBD is a part of the collective whole. I actually I'm writing an ebook now on, I call it the 5-finger framework. And the 5-finger framework is simply it's an internal audit, if you will, and is 5 areas: physical fitness, mental health, nutrition, recovery, and your lifestyle. And all of those categories have subcategories. CBD is within nutrition. So it's an important integral part but it's not the end all be all. And I think that's a big part of why, a lot of the issues with expectations when you're taking a pharmaceutical pill is this is going to fix me. It's like, no, you need to take the steps to stop doing whatever it is that's hurting your health. And then that can attack the problem from another angle. True. But you need to be attacking this problem from all angles that you can to make a real difference. Or you can, but a lot of the time, it's sad to say that I think many of us would rather choose the easy route and declare victimhood. That's just not what I'm about.
So we're almost at the end. I have a few more questions for you, the ending questions. Would you like to add anything that we didn't discuss?
I just really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak to your community. And I implore anyone who's interested to talk more, please reach out. I'm very, very reachable. I always will respond back. And I love seeing emails come in, messages come in, and just learning how we can better serve the communities. Because I truly mean when I say together, we're strong as flock. The only reason I share my story is to help empower and to encourage other people to not only share their stories, but own it, own their stories and own who they are. And have conviction, have that tenacity in your spirit to just attack your goals one by one.
Thank you for the encouragement, for the empowering words. We need to hear that and be reminded of that, for sure. And my last question to you, how do you define success these days? What is to be successful to you?
I think success, people, expect to hear you say money. But to me, success isn't about the money. Money, being able to pay my bills and not have to worry about making rent or groceries, that's what I need to live. But success to me is having time and freedom, the ability to take care of my family and others who need a little extra help, because I've been fortunate and I didn't get to where I am by myself. In order to make a difference, we all need assistance, but we all need to take ownership of our own actions at the same time. So
that's a beautiful idea, concept of success, and not just money, fame, power, right? That most of us are used to.
Yeah, I think having that freedom, that's the biggest thing. Success and making an impact to help empower people live better lives. So I'm employable. I'm clean cut guy. I can put together a resume and probably go get hired somewhere. But I took a big risk, and I've really sacrificed a lot to pursue my own dreams. And I encourage others to do the same, because I practice what I preach. Chase your dreams, face your fears, overcome adversity. And I implore everyone to do that. And I do that myself every day, every week, month after month. And I think we all find strength by sharing. Like even this conversation, selfishly, it helps me. It gets me fired up. It gets my energy levels restocked. And I think that's important for longevity, is for us to share our experiences, because through that sharing process, it's empowering. I jokingly say Flock is like a superhero character that anyone could put on and feel empowered to be able to do anything.
Thank you for being you. We need more of this reference. So what was the hardest lesson to learn about yourself and life as of today?
Ooh, so many things. To pick one, so difficult. So the number one thing that I've learned about myself, I think the number one thing I've learned about myself is just all of my own imperfections. They're so highlighted through action. Like when you do have those difficult conversations with yourself and you do face your fears, you do have to experience those lows. But I think those lows are a direct reflection into how low you can go directly correlates to how high you can climb. I mean, what goes up must come down. What goes down must go up. So I think the number one thing that I've learned is just learning to conquer my own imperfections and to accept the ones that I can't control. Right. And yeah, I think that would probably be and that lesson has been learned many times over in many applications, not just, the trauma of the spinal cord injury and that rehabilitative process, but just many things. I mean, losing a loved one or a relationship or something, just, a venture that you set out on that didn't go well, or a bad interaction you had with someone. I mean, I'm the type that if I have a poor interaction with someone, it affects me because I reflect about it. I don't let it ruin my day, but it really, I'm very in tune with those vibrations, and I want to put out good vibrations, but we're all just, I think I'm just trying to do the best. We're all trying to do the best we can. So
yes,
I've learned that about myself as well, is just it's plainly put, it's a little bit blunt, but I just try to suck less and do better. So I've learned to just try to do better every day.
Yeah. If you knew you would die soon, meaning leaving or losing the body, would you make any change or do anything in a different way?
Oh, if I was going to die soon,
yeah,
I would say I would have to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a big motivating factor on why I moved back to the East Coast. Parents were getting older and it was time.
Yeah.
So I think that would be number one, letting my family know that I love them and to spend time with them and to try to just do all the fun stuff that I could before the time ran out.
Yes.
Do all the things that maybe it was on the fence about. Go ahead, do it, because you don't have much time left. You might as well. It's like at that point, what's the worst that can happen, right? You can actually say that. So.
True, yeah, for real. And have fun. Yeah, we forget to have fun, that's for sure. My last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
That you're going to die.
Yeah.
You got to pay taxes. And it's better to flock with friends than to flock alone. I think community, I think connection is so integral in life. And without it, you're missing a very important component.
What a wonderful message. Of course, one that I embrace wholeheartedly. Thank you, Matt, for saying that again and again. So before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your work, services, products, and future projects?
So right now we have a website. You can find us at flockgoods.com. Actually, all social media platforms at flockgoods. So we're easy to find. And the future is bright. We're relocated to Maine, Berwick, Maine, recently from San Diego, California. So a complete change in landscape. But we're really excited about that change, and we're going to be able to offer some beautiful new locally sourced products very soon. So I've got a lot of announcements coming soon. I can't share too much, but just know that things are developing here locally, organic. It's a beautiful place. So I'm just excited to be here and to have this emerging community to continue to foster and nurture. It's been a long road. Started in 2018, but we're still here. We're stronger than ever, and I'm just happy to be able to share with your listeners. And thank you. And you've been amazing. Thank you so much for just taking the time and being such a great host and being so easy to talk to. Make things very comfortable.
Thank you for the encouragement, Matt. The body really appreciates that. The mind is all in, the mind and the heart. So thank you so much for your presence. I love your fun, enthusiastic, positive presence. The words, everything else that can be felt in between. It's beautiful. You have a very beautiful, elevated presence. Thank you. So we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch for sure. Bye for now, Matt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Matthew Gagne and his work, please visit flockgoods.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.